And that's a real problem. And that's something you, I think, need to be thinking about as you look at the possibility of spending what could easily be $200–300 million with cost overruns and so on this light rail line. So it's a real challenge. And what ends up happening, unfortunately, and we had this in Los Angeles, where we built the Blue Line light rail line from LA to Long Beach it opened about 1990. The Red Line subway began to open about 95. By this time, my old agency was doing everything it could to throw all the money it could into rail, and it was actually bleeding the bus system and raising fares. Well, the NAACP and the Bus Riders Union, which was a part of the transit union, got together and sued the transit agency and said, you are treating low-income people unfairly, and basically, through it all, put aside the rail construction program, or at least greatly reduced it for years to come. The basic problem is, in the long run, what you get with these systems is a tendency on the part of public agencies to reduce bus service, to take service away from the people that really need it, and that's a real problem. For some reason, I'm not sure what it is, oftentimes you get the impression with transit people that they would really, some of them, would really only move, would prefer to move only those people with briefcases, and they're not interested in those people who are poor. I envision a world where social service agencies run transit, and I think it'd be a lot better.
Okay, a long question here. Why does congestion increase when we can build light rail? Okay, why does congestion increase when we can build light rail? Because
light rail doesn't go where we need to go. The basic question, and I wish I had time to go back to a slide there that I passed by. I had a slide that I passed by because I didn't think it was terribly relevant, of a commuter rail train, two-decker train, crossing a freeway in Toronto. The freeway is absolutely jammed. And my question to you, if you can imagine this, is, now, why are all those people in those cars with that commuter train right on top? Well, my guess is that maybe the commuter train isn't going where those people are going. And one wonders what it would take to get those people to get on that commuter train to go somewhere they're not going. And that's what we need to think about with respect to all of this.
Is that your next study?
Yeah, exactly.
After 100 million in studies, do we have a workable plan?
No. I mean, it's not workable because it's not acceptable to you in Clark County. I mean, I don't know what the result would be, but if it's legal, and I'm not sure if it is, if it's legal to put an advisory referendum on the Clark County on tolls, I wouldn't be surprised if it wouldn't pass. But it might, who knows?
If we want to build a bridge, what should we do?
Well, I think what you've got to do is make it very clear to your public officials from Olympia to Salem and Portland to Vancouver that you want other things looked at. I mean, think about this. I don't know the exact numbers, but we have a bridge project. It starts a bit below the bridge in Delta Park in Oregon and goes way up to Route 500. Why does it have to go from beyond the point that it hits the ground near downtown Vancouver up to Route 500? We're replacing a number of interchanges in there and rebuilding the road and all sorts of things. If you were to stop the project at this point at the north end of the bridge, maybe down the road you come back and do it. You do these things in phases. You don't have to. Imagine that if your parents, a long time ago, and your grandparents, the grandfather had just gotten back from the war, and they lived in Brooklyn. And so all of a sudden, Bill Levitt is building houses out in the potato fields of Levittown. And the family starts talking about, well, do we really want to buy that little 750 square foot, 4-room house? We really want a 3,000 square foot house. So let's hold out until we can get the 3,000 square foot house. That's where you are at this point. I mean, there's no question that the planning process has failed to consider a less capital intensive alternative, which would be to build a high powered bridge like is planned for, that provides the need to replace the earthquake prone bridge, and then down the road do whatever else you need. Right now you're being forced to basically buy a huge project, and it's no wonder you can't afford it.
Can you explain the difference between capacity and actual riders?
Huge difference. You know, the transit people will tell you that light rail can carry 20,000 people per direction during peak hour. What you will generally find is that with light rail, nobody is capable of actually providing more than about 3,000 passengers, maybe 4. They don't even have the cars to do it. So again, what you have is a situation where the capacity is far above it, above what the ridership is, you know. It's sort of like the difference between capacity would be if you were to build an 8-lane freeway from here to Long Beach, you'd probably find it to be empty most of the time because the capacity would be substantially more than the demand. I mean Long Beach, Washington. I presume you all did too, so.
Please explain the difference between sprawl and growth.
Between what?
Sprawl and growth.
Well, sprawl again is a term, it's a religious term, excuse me. It is a religious term conveying the concept of sin to urban planners.
I told you don't use religious in a church.
What's that? Yeah, forgive me. My formal apologies to the pastor. But the point is that you look at how urban development has occurred around the country. It's generally occurred on the fringe of communities. It has happened that way, not just since World War II, but happened before that. Again, we'll put it in religious terms. I suspect if we go back to Adam and Eve, we'll probably find that Cain and his wife took a house next door rather than on top. And that's when sprawl began. Well, the basic point is that around the world, the only way urban areas have expanded is on the fringe. A number of reasons for that, but one is people like space, but the second issue is that's where the inexpensive land is. We never could have had a country that went from a home ownership rate of 40% to 70% if we had said you got to all move within this kind of thing. So a better word than sprawl is suburbanization, which is the spreading of the city. Now, you'll be told that the cities have spread far faster than the population growth, and that's true. However, if you were to go back and say, well, now, how does the expansion of the city, that being the urban area, by U.S. Census Bureau definition, how does the spread of the city compare to the increase in households? You find it's almost the same percentage. So again, I know a lot of people, especially in Portland, have the view that, well, we've got to stop the expansion of the city because it's taking up valuable farmland. Well, that's an interesting concept until you think about and recognize the fact that since 1950 in this country, we have taken out of production an area of land equal to the size of Texas and Oklahoma and Vermont altogether. And that is far bigger than any urban expansion that has occurred. And so the point is, there's no reason to not allow cities to expand. We need to make sure the infrastructure is there and all that kind of thing. But if we want people to have the most, the greatest level of affluence and so on, we need to get away from this thing that basically tries to force everybody to live in a way they don't want to live.
What is the time frame for this bridge or light rail proposal?
Well, I hear they would like to be under construction by 2012, but if the former Metro president is right, they're not going to make that at all. It's really hard to say. I mean, things are really up in the air at this point in Washington. I'm not sure how many years behind we are in the transportation reauthorization bill, so it's really hard to say.
We have a compounding problem with the proposed city center at Waterfront. Comment?
I'm not familiar with that at all, I'm sorry.
Okay, I don't know this. A battery-powered Swiss motorcycle. Okay, maybe you should read this one.
Oh, okay. My problem is finding glasses here. Okay, we'll get this. Well, the basic question is, the questioner is asking about battery-powered motorcycles and what are their future with respect to urban transport. Given that most Americans probably wouldn't want to venture out on a motorcycle, there are a lot to do, on a busy urban motorway, I don't think the future is very big, but I can tell you what you're talking about there is a very serious and a wonderful improvement on mobility. If you go to China at this point and go, for example, to Walmart you know, who's very big in China, or Carrefour, or the various hypermarket stores out of Europe and the United States, what you find is they are now selling these battery-powered motorcycles. They are unbelievable. They have a top speed of about 30 miles an hour. They are being sold like hotcakes in China at the moment, and they are increasing the mobility of the Chinese unbelievably, so that, for example, you can go to Walmart and buy one of these battery-powered motorcycles that you plug into your outlet at home for something like $300, and it's really improving mobility. If you go to Hanoi, you won't believe it. In Vietnam, I mean, crossing a street is really an experience. I mean, you have these unbelievable amounts of people on motorcycles. It's happening there as well. So there is a big, strong future, I believe, for motorcycles. I don't believe, however, it's going to be so in the United States, because we're rich enough that we can largely, you know, afford cars. What's that again?
Top Gear.
Okay, whatever that means, whoever asked the question, watch Top Gear. I have no idea what I just said.
Okay.
But thank you.
I hope it was safe to say in a church.
We're going to go to the Anglican church the next time.
Yeah. You have commented on projects all over the country. What do you know about the success of Cypress Expressway reconstruction after the 1989 earthquake? Also, what do you know, or can you comment on the Hoover Dam Bridge project stretching between Arizona and Nevada?
Now, the 89 earthquake, Cypress Freeway, I'm not sure which one that is. I mean, is that 910, the one that fell like that? Probably is. The Oakland, okay. Well, it's been rebuilt, and hopefully the next time we have a big earthquake, it won't happen, but I believe it's been rebuilt at this point. I don't know if the 280's been rebuilt, but I think that one has. The other question was, the second project was what?
What do you know, or can you comment on the Hoover Dam Bridge project?
Yeah, I understand that I think they've now connected the deck, and it should be open pretty soon. What you've got there is a situation where they're building, I think, a 4-lane bridge in front of Hoover Dam. It's either a cable-stayed or a suspension bridge. It will make it possible to move very quickly between Phoenix and Vegas. And you know, one of the problems with Phoenix and Vegas is neither city was very large at all when the Interstate Highway Program was created, so they created no connection. Now there will be a good, in the long run, 4-lane connection between those two metropolitan areas.
What is the current plan for the level of earthquake which is possible? 3 or 4?
3 or 4?
3 or 4?
I mean, I've been watching the Discovery Channel. My understanding is sometime before 2012, you're going to have a 9.5 here.
There is levels of protection.
Oh, I don't know anything about that. I'm sorry. Sorry, that was the Richter scale I was referring to. I just don't know. My sense is, however, I cannot believe the public officials would be looking at anything other than a sufficient earthquake protection. And as you know, there's a lot more recognition of the earthquake difficulty in this area than there used to be. And Washington Department of Transportation is getting a lot of good experience now with respect to the rebuild that's planned of Alaskan Way in Seattle.
Okay, I guess this is just general questions. They want to know if Mayor Levitt or Sam Adams invited to this.
I'd have to ask David to answer that.
Our public officials were all notified, yes. Okay. Well, we will. We'll get to that in a minute. Somebody has a comment. I'm a single mom, currently unemployed, looking for work, and I have looked in Portland. It would cost me less financially to take light rail. I fully support light rail for the environment now and in the future, and would be willing to help pay.
Okay.
And they want to know who brought you out here, Mr. Medora of U.S. Digital. And then finally, there is a request from the audience to recognize the public officials and possibly candidates as well. Is this on the agenda? No, but we have a few minutes here. Can we have the public officials stand up, please? Thank you. We have Steve Stewart. We really appreciate it. And I did see 2 city council members that were here, Larry Smith and Pat Campbell. I don't see them here now. All right, and here's the other one. Are there any candidates in here? Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on a second. 1 second. I just recognized the face out there, C-Tran, Jeff Ham. Okay, and we have a bunch of candidates here. You guys can mingle afterwards.